You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
No one can find the $18 T Trump claims he's given the U.S., based on an article by Sarah K. Burris. Trump spent billions in the politics of unaccountable power, a government of claims. The reporting here is simple enough. Trump keeps declaring windfalls, and the bills arrive anyway. In Venezuela, the administration says billions were disbursed and monitored, while the Financial Times reports nobody can account for where the money went. In tariffs, Trump talks about $18 trillion as if repetition can make it real. The Pentagon now wants more money after the administration's war spending, and the public is left with slogans instead of ledgers. This is not confusion. It is a governing style built on inflated numbers, hidden transfers, and constant theatrical accounting. The Venezuela Black Box. The actual power sits with the White House and the agencies that answer to it. Trump claimed the U.S. seized millions of barrels of Venezuelan oil in January and said the money would go to Americans and Venezuelans. The State Department then insisted that billions had been disbursed and monitored. Yet Congress's Rep. Joaquin Castro said has been kept in the dark. That is the political story. The administration controlled the resource, controlled the narrative, and apparently controlled the bookkeeping. When money moves through executive power without transparency or safeguards, financial monitoring becomes a decorative phrase, not a control. Tariffs as fantasy revenue. Trump's tariff rhetoric is even more brazen because it is so easy to disprove. He claimed tariffs had brought in more than $18 trillion and promised they could fund a 50% military increase, cut the debt, and deliver a dividend to moderate-income patriots. But the reporting in the source points the other way. Investor Stephen Ratner says the tariffs have produced a net loss of $26 billion. This is not a mistake at the margins. It is deliberate numerical theater. Trump's version of economic policy is propaganda with a price tag, designed to make extraction sound like prosperity and contradiction sound like strength. The compliance layer. Trump does not do this alone. He depends on a compliance layer. Aides, agency heads, trade officials, and congressional Republicans willing to absorb the lie long enough to demand only partial clarification. Jamison Greer appeared before Congress and never spelled out the gap between Trump's numbers and reality. Republican Rep. Maria Elvira Salazar asked for transparency. Fine, but transparency after the fact is not accountability. It is an alibi for institutions that waited until the grift was visible to admit they had been blind. The deeper problem is not that some Republicans are now embarrassed. It is that the executive branch has been allowed to operate like a private holdings company with military capacity. The Musk mirror. The same pattern runs through the Musk episode. Campaign promises of $2 trillion in savings collapsed into a claimed $215 billion, then into something closer to $9 billion or $22 billion depending on the calculation. The administration also touted an unprecedented $211.8 billion reduction in regulatory costs and projected $1.5 trillion more. The numbers inflate because inflation is the point. This is how authoritarian politics launders failure. Promise the jackpot, miss the target, then replace the missing money with new claims, new enemies, and new emergencies. The deficit grows. The military still wants more, and the White House keeps talking as though incantation counts as revenue. The pattern is the point. The story is not really about one bad estimate. It is about a presidency that treats public accounting as political fiction and public power as a source of private leverage. Trump's administration is not merely overstating gains. It is using fabricated abundance to justify war, conceal extraction, and push Congress out of the frame. That is the large lesson. When a government can move oil, tariffs, budget promises, and foreign deals through one executive mouthpiece without clear public accounting, democracy is not being debated. It is being bypassed. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article with the automated voice of Liberates. Thanks for listening.